how to take back something foolish one has said by mistake. So, first, you have to determine who, or rather, if you've said something foolish by mistake to someone who is talking with you in good faith, your chances are significantly higher than someone who sort of sees or views you and the context of what you've said in a condescending, bad faith sort of manner. So, such as in contexts of, say, debates, where you say something foolish, perhaps without meaning to, or perhaps without realizing that it sounds foolish and meaning something else. So you can often see this in context of political figureheads. They'll say something that is obviously meant to be a loaded statement, and others who, participating in bad faith, will intentionally misrepresent such a thing. Taking back statements like that in those sorts of contexts are significantly more difficult to do than somebody you were just having a friendly, casual debate with, where it's not, there's no hostility in the air. So, the first thing is identifying whether or not whoever you're trying to convince that you've made a mistake is engaging you in good or bad faith. And if it's in good faith, you need to sort of avoid cliches. Often, when people handle these situations, they sort of view this, they sort of take a very stereotypical, psychological, oh, of course he's trying to back out, he said something foolish. And they subconsciously pick up on very cliche tropes within how you try and take something back, or how you act, inflection in your voice, things like that. These are all things that others are going to pick up on, whether in good faith or bad faith. And this does matter, both in good faith and bad faith. Because whether or not somebody is engaging with you in good faith or bad faith, if you fulfill a psychological cliche trope, they are less likely to accept that you made it as a mistake and didn't actually mean what you did. Things such as embarrassment, portraying embarrassment when trying to take something back, stuttering your speech, there are small tells which can indicate to someone, which they will falsely attribute in their mind if they're looking at you through the lens of, are they fitting this stereotypical trope of somebody who's lying about taking something back. And if you meet these, they will very often misidentify these as fulfilling that trope, rather than look at it in the context of, okay, perhaps this person is embarrassed because they're trying to take something back genuinely that they made a mistake on, and they're nervous about whether or not I'm viewing them in this lens of cliche, stereotypical behavior. People often don't take into account that. They have this overinflated sense of, well, they're not going to think that far ahead. I'm the one that's thinking that far ahead, not them. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, identify whether or not they're engaging you in good or bad faith. And if it's in good faith, the second thing you need to do is be aware that they may be subconsciously and consciously looking for you to be fulfilling a trope, a psychological cliche trope, after you've attempted to take back the foolish thing of what you've said by mistake, or amend it perhaps. It also works if you're trying to amend it. They may also look for the same things. So, in doing this, once you've identified that they're engaging in good faith, and once you've understood that they may be looking at you through this trope sort of sense, and once you've made aware of how you may appear to them, what behaviors you might be exuding, the next step is to bring them out of this sort of, well, you can tell if they're not taking you seriously, or if they're, purposely, with intent, telling you no, you clearly meant that as a mistake, then your next step is to explain to them why their view of that trope in this instance of you is incorrect. You need to explain to them that you understand this is a trope, and that you've just psychologically fulfilled this by accident in their own mind, and you need to sort of divide yourself from this trope in their own mind. And this, obviously, now there may be other ways to do this, but this is what I found to be most useful and good faith arguments. First, you point out that obviously you understand that you look like you're foolish, and then you point out that you understand that you're fitting the cliche behaviors of looking foolish in a sort of psychological cliche tropey manner. And then you point out the steps. Point out, I know I look embarrassed, but this is because of this other reason. Because I'm aware that you may be looking at me through this sort of tropey lens. And I'm embarrassed because I feel you may be falsely applying this to me. And it's sort of I'm nervous that you may be viewing me in this, and it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy of, it's a false positive, if you will. And then, after you've correctly identified and pinpointed and explained that much of this tropey behavior, which you've seemingly exuded in the right context for them to categorize you as a cliche antic trying to cover your ass, sort of playing it off as a mistake, then once you've determined that they understand that this is not the case, you simply amend yourself. I mean, you could ask them if you can amend yourself, obviously. Or you could just say, what I actually meant was so and so and so and so. And then you correct the mistake. And, that's pretty much it. That's very simplified. That's a very simplified version of the interaction. I decided not to add the aspects of, how to identify whether or not, I decided not to add the aspects of, what their tells are going to be, if they believe you or not. I trust that most of the people, if not everyone who's going to be watching this video, has enough, what is the word I'm thinking of? Psychological adequacy in order to understand basic, tells of someone who's believing you or not. Obviously, you wouldn't be in the situation of recognizing that they're looking at you through a sort of tropic sort of lens, if you weren't at least aware of, basic tells and signs of psychology and somebody who's seeing you in a certain way. So I trust that anyone who's watching this video will be able to do this without much more guidance on that. So anyways, in summary, figure out whether or not someone is arguing with you or is engaging with you in good or bad faith. If it's in good faith, you gotta identify what behaviors you're exuding and what lens they're looking at you through. And if they're looking at you through this person's obviously just trying to cover their ass and they're embarrassed that they, said something stupid, and you have to make sure they understand that you're aware of the trope and that they've misidentified it. And then amend the mistake. And it's relatively simple. So this is really something I've been pondering lately. How to, sort of amend in post after you've said something accidentally completely stupid. Because we all do this. It's just one of the, basic interactions of, human interaction. It's one of those things that, everybody's come across at one point. And I just wanted to make a little simple suggestion. It gets more complicated, in different contexts and things like that. In bad faith, I'm not going to do a video on that right now, because I haven't considered all of the factors. So that I'm just going to leave out for now. And obviously there's a lot more facets and simple things, but I'm just keeping this broad and simple. So anyways, thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, do me a favor and subscribe. If you like the video, share, etc., blah 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 blah, bell, etc., whatnot, so and so. And I'll likely be putting out more content like this in the future. Bye bye.